Well, anytime you take a drug, the drug has a half-life,
Right.
which means over a set period of time, half goes away, half goes away. Well, mathematically, you never get to zero.
Right.
There's always a residual tiny amount. I said it was in your spine, I have no idea where it actually is. But the idea is it's gotten down so small that it's
I thought
irrelevant
there
now.
was some side effect or something.
Oh, no, not at all. Just a consequence of how your liver works as a percentage. All right, here we go. Let's get some numbers. Oh, the machine's over here. Let's crunch some numbers. All right. Oh my goodness. Replace this thing.
Hey, that's the top of the end technology over there.
I know. There we go. So, where do we go? One prop Z test. All we gotta do now is change everything in it. So we're testing our new data. Proportion that we're testing is 13.5%.
Yep.
Our sample, we got 121 appetite losses out of,
750.
thank you, 710. Michael's already given us the percentage. Thank you for the p-hat, very, very nice. The question is, what's the margin of error around that? And that's what this will all give out to us right away.
So
Ray, would you mind killing the one line? Thank you, sir.
Are we looking for not equal to P?
Yes, we are. We're going to change the sign to not equals because we're looking for different.
And then we draw.
That's why, and again, back to Michael's question, that's why I have you set this up so you know exactly what to run through your machine. And this is not just the TI and its 1986 technology. It's also any online applet you would use. If you don't have your TI and you want to run one of these tests, you can simply type into Google single proportion hypothesis test and you'll get a bazillion hits on how to test it. It will ask you the exact same things. It'll say successes out of trials, which proportion are you testing against, and which side are you testing. It's going to ask the exact same things, just in more and less TIEs. Calculate or draw, your choice.
Let's draw.
I think drawing is very, very nice because it gives you the only two things you really need, which is the test statistic and the p-value, which are the test. There it is. I don't see a whole lot of area shaded. This is like a curve with no tail. And now you'll see why. Your test statistic is 2.76. Notice it's positive. Notice it's positive 2.76. That means it's going to be out here somewhere.
So that means it really sucks.
2.76. Now think about this. Think about this. The test statistic is a 2.76. If you think about what you know about 95% confidence intervals, they go out to -2 and +2, right? So this is technically -2 down here and +2 up here, which means your data is outside of 2 standard deviations, well on its way to 3 standard deviations, different than the supposed average of 0. So your test statistic of 2.76 carries a p-value of 0.0057, 0.0057, which is extraordinarily small. That means there's a chance it's on that curve, just not, right, not a very good chance, not a very significant chance. It's more likely an outlier on that curve, which means it's more likely some curve over here that it's a part of. Remember, you don't often see outliers, which means if this data point is indeed an outlier in this curve, it's probably more likely on some other curve floating over on this side. Replication is always our friend, of course. We want to see this repeated to see if it truly is an outlier. Renee, ask me that question.
So P or
This is big P.
H1 is greater than 0.1.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Let's put it in words versus symbols now. Because this is the symbolic part is the part you're going to see in your research journals. But putting it in words, I think, is way more important because then you can explain it to your neighbor next door. Should I put my kid on Prevnar? My doctor has this new drug Prevnar. You can tell him this. You can tell him this. So, maybe stop eating. So we got this test statistic Z equals 2.76. P-value, big P equals 0.0057. Notice I put a big P down there because I think it's that important. Circle the correct phrase and complete the conclusion. It appears. Whenever you get a small p-value, circle appears. Because that's what you're seeing. You're trying to see if it appears something's changed. And it appears that it has changed. Now, finish it contextually. Let me see hands on this. Finish it contextually. Finish it contextually. It appears that this is RJ's good in this town. Renee, go!
That the percentage of infants with loss of appetite on Prevnar is significantly greater than other drugs.
Can I change one word
Yeah.
to make it what we tested?
Yeah.
That's the only word I would change. Somebody say it. So, Renee, say it again. Nice and loud. Nice and loud. That was perfect. It appears that
The percentage of infants with loss of appetite on Prevnar is significantly different than the percentage of children on the other drugs.
That's perfect. I want to repeat it just in case you didn't get a chance to hear it. That was awesome. It appears that the percentage of loss of appetite of infants on Prevnar. Where did I get that block of text from? Look up here. That's what we're testing, right? It appears that the percentage of infants with loss of appetite on Prevnar is indeed different than the loss of appetite of infants on a competing medication. Boom! Perfectly stated. The only reason I changed that greater than to different, Renee, was because that's what we were testing. It does look like it's greater, doesn't it? Yes, it does. And of course it will be greater if you change the sign to greater than. But we weren't testing that, we were simply seeing if there was a change first. Then we can go back in, see how big the change is, if needed. Because that's something you can tell parents. That's something you can tell parents, the risk might go up by 10%.
Well, what if it was more kids had it, but they had a less severe case of it?
What if more? That's a definitional. That's a definitional which we can't control because the studies are not out of our control.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm not saying it's not a good question. We have no control over with this data. Then we have to make sure it was defined consistently. In other words, all the kids had the same level of appetite loss. We have to. I love what you're saying. It's very important what you're saying. We have no control over it at this stage of the game. And it doesn't change the mathematics either.
Right, but back when we were deciding which one we...
Oh, that's pre this. That's even pre this. That's how you're going to collect your data and how you're going to rate appetite loss. Great question. Just something we can't. It's a research methods question versus a 244 question. Great question. Jamie, go.
I'm just having trouble with this.
Oh, what is it giving you an error?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take our 5 in a minute. Let me fix that. Last but not least, which error could we have made?
Type 1.
That's the only one we could have made. It's always a type 1 when you get a small p-value. When you get a small p-value, first of all, you're always going to believe this. You're always going to believe this. Small p-value, you believe this. Big p-value, you believe this. So you got a small p-value. How are we defining small for right now? Less than 0.05, less than 5%. Small p-value, you believe this guy. That means you believe something has changed. That means you got a positive test result. That means you got a positive test. Positive test result means something's different. You could be wrong with a false positive, and that's a type 1. So, small p-value implies a possible, not guaranteed, but possible type 1 error. In this case, it's 5% likely because of how we've set up our results. Is that good so far?
Do we label that P or small p?
This is little p. That's the proportion we're testing.
Small, little p.
And a big P too. The problem with the TI, as you noticed, is it doesn't say it's big P. And if you go to the draw, this is what's super confusing in my opinion. If you go to the calculate screen on that one, what's that?
That the P looks little.
This is what drives me insane, okay? So it gives you all this. It's got little p here, p hat here, and prop here. Now the reason I think they call this prop and not just p
Because it looks
is because it looks the same as their p-value. That's why I try to avoid this screen whenever possible and go straight to the draw screen. Because that way you're seeing the p-value and its test statistics paired with it. But my opinion is less confusing that way. So, cool? Let's take 5. I want to come back, run a few more tests. A whole bunch more tests actually. Just get the feel for these things in. Let's vote at the end. Let's keep them all separate. We'll see which one we want to turn in. I think we should turn at least one in today, yeah? But hold tight. I don't want to take too much away from you in case you need them for reference too. You do. But this is let's just see. Let's do it at the end. I think that's a great idea though, Michael. Take 5.